The vehicle we got in the shop today is actually a 2008 Chrysler Aspen, which is basically just a high-end version of a Dodge Durango. And what I want to show you today is replacement of the EGR valve. This one, looking at my notes, we had a code for a P0406. That is actually a EGR position sensor circuit high. Already ran through the test, diagnosed as an EGR valve. Now I'm just going to show you step by step how to remove it and replace it. Now this pretty much pertains to all Hemi engines as far as the 5.7 liters. I'll show you a little thing on this Aspen, just getting the air inlet off, nothing particularly hard. But as far as any Hemi, the procedure is going to be basically the same because it's located in the same location and nothing else is really different. So with that, let's go ahead and get our hands dirty. So here's a view of the EGR valve itself. This is actually the replacement one that we're going to be using. This is basically how it's oriented on the passenger side head. You got the two 10mm I was telling you about and the metal gasket that holds them in place. And then here's where your two 8s go, where the EGR tube runs up to the intake. And then of course there's your connector. So I thought I'd give you a good view off the car because there's a little tight spot down there, so it's going to be a little hard to get the camera completely in position, but that way you got kind of a basic idea where your two 10s are and your 8s are obvious. Now you got to watch out on these 8s because from time to time, it doesn't happen all the time, but they'll just get to where the threads get just welded together. So you try to back it out, and once you do, you're going to find out that the bolt's going to strip or it's going to damage EGR. But if it damages EGR in this case, we're not too worried because we're replacing it. It's just a matter of getting you some bolts then. They got real small heads on them being that they're 8s because the pipe comes through, so you got to have clearance for the bolts to get you a socket, or in this case more than likely a combination of using a wrench and a socket to get that off. In order to get to that EGR valve assembly, we're going to have to go ahead and take the air inlet portion off because it's directly below it, and we'll leave the portion that says Hemi right here on the intake. We're just going to go ahead and unloosen this band clamp, and we're going right ahead and remove the vent hose right there, and then we'll go ahead and start unsnapping the air filter upper cover. It's got 3 snaps, and then this portion of the air box actually has a little rubber bushing in the upper radiator shroud that it snaps down into, and we'll actually pop it up. Sometimes the shroud, the bushing comes out. This one stayed in place, and we'll just start working it out. Now we've got the assembly out. Now I can get ready to reposition the camera and I get you a better view of where we're going to be working. So here's the actual location of the EGR valve. We've got the connector right here on the top. It's got a red lock. So that's it right here. Just so you got a basic idea where we're at. Here's the alternator. In this corner right here is the air filter. So that's where we're at. Now we've got, like I mentioned before, we've got two 8mm holding this EGR tube that goes from the intake down to the EGR valve. And then we got the two 10mm where it bolts directly to the head. What we need to do is release this lock so we can get the connector off. It's kind of a typical Chrysler connector here that you got to slide the lock sideways till it's fully removed, and then you can actually press down on the release for the connector and pull back. Until you get that red lock out of the way, you're not going to get the connector off. So now we got a little bit of excess. You can see everything. And we're going to work on getting the two 8mm off, and then we can move on to the two 10s to get that out of the way. So now we're going to try to get down in here and start working on getting those two 8mm. Like I said, it's a little tight clearance to get down in here, but you can, and it is possible. Now when I take this last bolt out, once I get to that point, there's going to be a composite gasket that goes between the pipe and the EGR valve. I know for sure that the Mopar replacement EGR valves will not come with that gasket. So when you do take that last bolt loose, kind of pay attention to get ready to kind of grab it so that it doesn't fall somewhere that you're not going to be able to see or notice where it went. So these are starting to come out the way. I can probably start backing them out by hand. I'll show you how I get to the first one, get it out. Like I said, the second one's just going to be repetitive. So there we go, we've got that one out of the way. Now we just got to get to that second one. And all I'm using right now is just a short 8mm socket with a 1/4 inch drive. You can find different combinations that work for you, or to break them loose you may want to use a 8mm wrench. So now I can get to that last one, which I've already kind of backed out already. I'll get that going. So far everything seems to be fine. I ain't having a problem with any threads being damaged. And one thing that might help you, this insulated sleeve that's on this pipe, you can actually kind of push it out of your way. So that way you don't have so much stuff blocking your view. Like I said, I've got my hand up under this pipe so I can try to get ready to catch that gasket and hopefully not drop it like I've already warned you about. Okay, we're just about there. Of course, this one's still a bit warm too, so please excuse me if I keep trying to pull my hand back. It's getting a little burnt. Alright, come on, we're about there. Alright. Both my hands at this point if I can. There we go. I should get my hands back in view. I'll show you what we got. Here's our gasket. This is still in good shape. It has a little recess where the pipe was going onto it, the little flange. So this is the part that we're going to mount it like this, where the pipe goes right here. So now you've seen I got that out. I got my 2/8. Now I'm just going to move on to getting my 10mm down here. And what I'm going to be using there, I'm just going to use an air ratchet with a, I'd say it's kind of a deep 10mm. And I've got enough clearance to get down in here. Just got to figure out where the bolt is, feel around for it. Being that I showed you what it looks like off the vehicle, you got no orientation there. Now we're not worried about when this gasket falls because, of course, our replacement EGR valve has one, so don't be too worried about if you do lose sight of it. As you've seen, last bolt's out, EGR started moving. Now we can start getting everything out of the hole here. And there's our old one. I'm gonna go ahead and clean up the surface that the new one's gonna be going on. And then that's it. So you saw in this Hemi, replacement of the EGR valve isn't that hard. I could break it down from vehicle to vehicle, but as far as the basic process, the EGR and how it's located on the block or on the head is pretty much the same. Some of them you just may have to remove different kind of air inlets to get to it. But otherwise it's pretty cut and dry. Like I said, it's not major. The installation is just going to be the opposite of removal. Just pay attention when you're lining everything up, especially that composite gasket and those 8mm bolts, that you get it lined up good and snug up. And then just reconnect, put the connector on and whatever you took loose as far as the air inlet. So with that, I appreciate you watching my videos. Always stay tuned for more. And the best way you can do that is to subscribe. Because as soon as you subscribe, you'll get notified anytime I've got any more new videos coming out. So thanks again for watching. And also, thumbs up, thumbs down. Love to hear your comments. Thank you very much.